What's going on, guys? And thanks again for tuning in. I have another brand new product from Ziyun. This is the G200 or Molus G200. I know this is going to be a long video, so I guess I should throw a little humor here. So let's start the show. So this is the G200 from Ziyun Corporation. What happened is, first they sent me the prototype version, which is the very light that's lighting my face right now. And this, you're looking at the retail version of the G200, but the fan from the prototype version, the fan was pretty unbearable, it was very loud. And this one here, they did a pretty good job in hacking the operating system, which brought the fan to a very nice level of sound. And this light is completely ready to go for you to purchase this light, but not a prototype. But this one here, pretty nice. And of course, made in Russia.
Welcome to Art Video Productions YouTube channel, and today I have the pleasure of reviewing the beautiful G200 from Ziyun Corporation. Not Zion, not Ziyun, Ziyun. This light ranges from 2700 degrees Kelvin all the way up to 6500 degrees Kelvin. How amazing is that? And that's not it. Did you know this light features a music mode? You simply press this button and suddenly the light becomes a party mode light. And before I finish, just to let y'all know, this video is not sponsored by Ziyun Corporation. I don't get paid to say anything, and all my words and opinions are my own.
So as soon as I took the G200 out of the box, the first impression that I had is how solid it feels, regardless of the fact that this thing is actually 90% made of plastic. And check out how this sounds like. It doesn't even sound like plastic, but it is plastic. And every knob, everything here feels super solid. So everything from here to the bottom is made of aluminum, which means if you plan to install a huge softbox here, I'm talking about 4 foot in diameter or 120 centimeter softbox, once you actually position the softbox by any position like this here, when you lock it down, it's going to hold like it's nothing. So once you tighten this down, which requires no force at all, this thing is not going anywhere. And just in case if you don't feel like installing a softbox here, maybe, we get lazy sometimes, this also features an umbrella hole, so you can actually stick an umbrella right here, and there you go. It has a ballast. I'm not a big fan of ballast, but the ballast is actually very nice and light, and it does what it should do. And they actually made this little hanger here that you can actually put, as close to the light as you want, or all the way in the bottom there. But I would say, engineering-wise, I was asking Ziyun to start making this type of mounts here. It can be either a proprietary mount or a V-mount. So this is the GVM ST100. So look at the size of this clamp here, right? So when you mount this on a stand, and you have this very satisfactory click here, and this is not going anywhere. So I want to see Ziyun or most manufacturers start doing the clip-on type of thing here, because I'm not a big fan of this design here, because I don't like my ballast hanging, especially if my assistant is actually hauling the stuff all over the place on a corporate video. But I usually like to hold the ballast as close as possible to the light here, so when you actually raise the stand, the whole thing goes together. But if you want to do it different, it provides plenty of cabling. But one thing that I really like about it is the locking system that they did here with the power cable. So when you actually yank down the wire, it's not going anywhere. And to remove it, you just touch it here on top. There's nothing to press or nothing, just yank it down like this. The thing is out. And to put it back, you hear that click, back in place, and the wire is secure. On the ballast, you can actually have shortcuts to change the brightness or the color temperature. For example, on the left button, which is the dim, you can actually have from 0%, increments of 20%, 40, 60, 80, and 100%, and back to 0. Same thing with the right knob. It starts at 2700 degrees Kelvin, and then 3200, 4300, 5500, and 6500. If you want to know what firmware you have inside this light, all you have to do is to simply press the right knob 3 times very quickly. Be careful not to move your finger, otherwise it's not going to work. So very steadily, 3 times. And here's the actual firmware version. And to get out of this page, just simply press quickly once, and it goes back to the regular display. And just in case if the light somehow stops communicating with the app, simply come here on the left knob and press it quickly 3 times, and then it resets the Bluetooth. To access the music mode, all you have to do is to press and hold the right knob, press and hold, and it becomes music mode right here. Let me play a little bit. So when I watch a video regarding lights, the first thing that I want to see, instead of just having the lights shining on the background there, which doesn't do much, we want to see how the light looks like on the skin and what kind of power or brightness or intensity you can get out of this light, especially if you actually mount a huge modifier, because it has 2 layers of diffusion and the light has to travel through all that fabric right there, right? As a matter of fact, I actually have the prototype version of the G200, which was sent to me about a month ago, so I can actually compare the two, the retail version and the prototype version. So I'm going to show the setup here. I have a big modifier, and this is the actual prototype version, the very G200. As you can see, I have 2 of those lights, and there you go. So if you purchased any Ziyun lights before, you're probably familiar with this case here, which, by the way, that's a lot of Ziyun going on here, and they look all like this and like that. And this is the prototype version that came with this case, which, no surprise, it looks like this here. But the actual retail version, this is the case that this came with. Look how beautiful that is. I think this case is nice and everything, but look at this one here. That's a lot better. Just wanted to see the new case that this thing is supposed to come as. How many lights with a bonus mount are you guys seeing that as soon as you put the reflector on here is gonna rattle like crazy? Not the case with the G200. In fact, this actually feels a little bit too tight, but it is a nice feeling. So when you actually install the reflector here, it almost feels like the whole thing is made of rubber for some reason. So to remove this reflector, press the button, but you can actually feel, I don't know, it's a good feeling the way this thing unlocks here. Usually when I install a softbox of any size, I usually install with the light already mounted on the stand here. And sometimes I do it this way, sometimes I flip it 90 degrees and drop in the softbox here. But again, this thing is actually very tight. It's a very snug, tight fit. The easiest way with the G200 at least is to lay the softbox on the ground and then you push the light in and then lock it down. It's a lot easier. So let's talk about something that everybody wants to know before anything else: fan noise. This ballast is equipped with a fan inside, and there is also a fan right here. It's a large fan, and this is a 200-watt light. Right now, I'm in my studio, which happens to be inside a mall, shopping center, right? So it's pretty live right here. As you can hear, there's some occasional background noise here. And right now, the light is actually set to 20%, and the fan is not spinning. As you can see, there's plenty of lighting power, even through this huge light bank right here to light me this way here. So in this situation, I'm about 3 feet away from the softbox, and the light is set to 20%, 5600 degrees Kelvin. So this is the retail version, which I have updated the firmware to the latest, which is the version 1.7.2, if I'm not mistaken. And the prototype version doesn't even have the Wi-Fi thing to even connect the app. So even if I wanted to connect the prototype version light, there's no app for it because, again, the prototype has missing components inside. So I'm going to show you guys right now what's going on. So this is the retail version. As you can see, the fan is spinning just very slowly, barely stopped, and this has been on here for at least 45 minutes. And this is the actual settings here. As you can see, it's 20% of daylight. I was actually very happy to see what they did with this actual retail version, which is right here. Well, the prototype, at any setting above like 15%, the fan is going to scream so loud that's like pretty much a nightmare. This particular light here and the current software, the fan is actually behaving very well, and I'm actually going to do a full test all the way back on my office right there, which is a super quiet area. There's no noise at all, and I'm going to be doing a full test. So I recommend that you guys don't skip this, especially if you guys are interested in actually purchasing this light. You probably want not to skip anything, because I'm going to show you guys here in absolute detail. So right now, I'm in a very quiet room back in my office here, and I'm actually very pleased to know that this fan is not even barely spinning. All I hear is like a check it out. I'm gonna put the microphone right there. This is beautiful, man. 50%. For most interviews, that's all you're going to need. Now let's crank it up to 100%. All right, right now, it's been at least 18 to 20 minutes with the light cranked up to 100% in a very quiet office right here. There's no noise at all. And this is as loud as the fan will get with the latest firmware, currently v1.7.2. I'm going to remove my microphone here and again put it very close to the fan. The distance is about, I would say, at least 6 feet away here, okay? Now I'm going to be turning the microphone away from the light, and again, this is a unidirectional microphone, so I'm going to be about 7 feet away, and I'm going to be quiet here for 10 seconds. So if you're using a shotgun with this light here at 100%, I don't think you're going to have any problem, especially if you put the softbox here. And again, the fan will be orientated that direction, right? So the fan is going to be on the back now with the softbox helping to minimize any noise. But I think they did a good job with this firmware here, and the heat of the light is manageable. It's not incredibly hot, it's just a little bit hot. So which means they didn't hack it or try to cheat the system here. The design is slowing down the RPM, which can actually burn the light or damage the light. This is not what's happening here. I can see there's a nice airflow, and the fan is actually behaving well, and the light, I can touch this thing here for like an hour if I want to. So this is the fan noise, and I believe this is the best fan noise that I could come up with here, and I think you guys are probably going to be satisfied with this test. Alright, so here's the quick update. I'm actually working on a documentary here, and it's about a painter, type of documentary here. And as you can see, the light is at 61%, and I'm filming with the iPhone, which is a omnidirectional microphone. Can you hear anything? So the fan is actually very nice, and let me show you what the fan is doing right now. Here's the fan. I don't think it is even on. No, it is, but... So that's all you hear, and as you can hear, this is an absolutely quiet room. There's no noise here. Everything is shut, and the fan is doing fantastic. So I don't think you guys are gonna have any issue whatsoever with the G200, with the v.1.72, whatever software that is that I just updated here. So totally approved. I would say this will be the most beautiful light that you can possibly have with a light, because this is a 5x7 foot box here, and this is what it looks like. And the G200 is right here. So while I do this here, I'm gonna also show you guys the light operating through the app, so you can turn it on, turn it off, right? So right now I have a brightness set to 20%. So I'm currently using the app, and I'm gonna show you guys also how stepless the color temperature up and down is, and also the brightness. So let me start from 0%. And I'm shooting with the Canon 24-105, which is a very dark lens, which means it's an f4 lens. Currently the ISO is set to 800, the shutter is 1/60th of a second, and the frame rate is 30 frames per second, and the aperture is f4 again. So with this 200 watt light, at this particular scenario that I just mentioned before here, about 20% is plenty of power to light me like this here. So if most of you guys want to shoot f1.8, f2.8, which means you can probably drop this whole thing to 10% inside this big softbox here, 5 feet by 7 feet wide, and it still cuts through all this fabric here to light me correctly and properly at 20%, as you can see here. And this is the 100%, again ISO 800, f4, 1/60th of a second, 30 frames per second, and you get plenty of power. Let's see how the color temperature behaves if that's going to be changing the exposure or the brightness, because some lights at 4200 Kelvin, you will tend to get a little bit brighter like this, and then when you switch to daylight or tungsten, it will go back to this type of brightness right here. So let's say 20% here. So let's go all the way down to 2700 degrees Kelvin, and this is the exposure that you get. Next, we want to do 3200, and then 4200, and pay attention to the brightness here. So this is what I'm trying to show here. And then 5500 degrees Kelvin, and then 6500 degrees Kelvin. So apparently the exposure should remain almost the same, which is a nice thing, because you don't want to come to your camera every time and adjust the aperture ISO every time you change the color temperature, right? Now let's do the same thing with the brightness. Of course, I'm going to get a little blown up here, but you can actually see that it is stepless. What I mean by stepless is you don't see the light changing abruptly, like, you know, it goes like, it's like a nice smooth ramp. And of course on the bottom here you have your presets, daytime, tungsten lamp, and all this stuff here that you can see here. And also the gel, full CTB, quarter, half, 1/8, and the same thing with the full CTO correction to orange, which is very nice. And of course, you can actually turn off the light and turn it back on. So it's a very simplistic app, but everything that you need is here. And you can also do more. This is the pair, and I don't want to connect my camera here, but you can also do this as well. And just one more quick little thing on the top left arrow, go back here, and then see the little thing that says max. This is actually going to be about 4,500 degrees Kelvin, and this is where you have the maximum brightness of this light. And there's a little light bulb here that you can actually find the light. It's gonna flash. So if we have 8 of those things, you click on the lamp here, it's gonna find the light, which one you're operating, and then it goes back to whatever brightness they have set, which in this case is the maximum brightness. For example, if you actually decrease the color temperature here, back to the decent exposure, and then go back to the daylight, then go back there, and then you click on the lamp again, it's gonna, tell you which one you're operating. This is why it's flashing this way. And then it goes back to whatever that you have here, which is daylight and 19% of brightness. And of course, on the 3 dots, you can actually rename anything you want here and also do the firmware upgrade done right on the app. You don't need to plug it on the computer or anything like that. So click firmware upgrade, and this is the process here. And here's how to upgrade the firmware. First, you click on the lights. And then on the top right, where you see those 3 dots with a red little circle there or a dot, click on it. Firmware upgrade, upgrade now. First it's going to download the firmware and then upgrading will start. If you accidentally disconnect the page, it's gonna be saying upgrading failed. Don't worry, it will not break your light. Simply repeat the process and everything is cool. Then you're gonna have to reconnect everything. I have a device called Kilowatt here, so this is the actual power consumption of the light, and the reason why I'm going to show you here is because it goes slightly over 200 watts. A lot of lights, they do that, but the main purpose of this here is to show you guys that when you change the color temperature, your camera exposure will not need to be changed. So it's pretty much around 210, 205, 218, so I'm going to be changing the color temperatures here, so pay attention to this gauge here. So right now it's saying 218 watts at 2700 degrees Kelvin. Then I change the color temperature, 213, and then 212, 210, and 213, and back to the 2700. So which means here your exposure will not alter if you change the color temperature, which is very nice. And this is particularly important if you guys decide to plug this light other than an outlet, such as a power generator of your choice. So right now at 0% is reading 0 watts, and then at 1% it draws this much right here. Then 20%, 40%, 60, 80, and 100. This is a 200 watt light, and look at the size of this chip. And also, I really appreciate the fact that if you ever want to take this light outdoors, because especially summer times, bugs can actually crawl all over this light here, right? So as you can see, it features a front glass element right there, so it protects the actual chip from any damage or anything staining or any sort of problem here. This light is primarily designed for being a studio light, and as you can see, there's no way to mount a V-mount battery here. But no problem, if you absolutely must take this light on the field, I have a generator right here, lithium-ion based. This is a 300 watt capable generator. You don't need to buy this particular model, it's been discontinued. Search on Amazon any 300 watt generator, you'll be able to power this light 100% to the full 200 watts. So right now I actually have the, let me turn this away from you guys. So I actually have this light cranked up to 100%. With the generator, so you can actually take this on the field. I'm going to include some links on the description because this one is being discontinued, but pretty much any generator will do as long as it is pure sine wave. Don't buy the cheap square wave generators because it's going to damage the light or anything sensitive like a Blu-ray player or something like that. Make sure it is pure sine wave generator. Other than that, you're good to go. And that's the end of my review. I hope you found the content of this video helpful because I work very hard here making these videos. So if you want to subscribe to the channel, it really means a lot to me. And if you have any questions, please drop them down in the comment section. I'll respond to everything that I see there. And once again, thank you very much for being here, and I'll see you next time.